So this week I received 3 of these beautiful boxes by Yilong. They are all from the F series, and as you may well know, I did a review on the F3 a couple of weeks ago, and it's one of the adjustable kind of machines. Now in today's video we are going to be talking about the F5. This is a non-stroke adjustable machine, but it's a very good beginner style machine and it has some really cool features. So let's dive down and have a look what's inside this box. So this is the Yilong F5. It has a 3.5mm stroke and a brushless motor. It also has 2 memory slots that I will show you in just a minute. It has a 2000 mAh battery and it will last you for about 8 hours of tattooing, and it'll charge in a good 2 hours with, of course, your Type-C kind of charger. It is only 162 grams in weight and it has a beautiful color OLED display. Now, as you can see, this machine is actually pretty small, especially for a wireless kind of machine. It is not very big at all. As you can see, there's 3 buttons up top here. These are to toggle between your voltage and your memory slots, and this is your power on button. Now if you power it on, it'll show you this very cute little smiley. It's happy that you're gonna start your day of tattooing, and you will see your voltage, your battery. I hope my camera focuses well. You can see the frequency of the machine. In the bottom here you see your memory slot, and this is the time that you've been tattooing. So if you hit that, you can see it's at 8.5 volts. It's 114 hertz in frequency, and you can adjust your voltage by doing so. Now there's probably a way I can flip my screen. I haven't figured it out yet, because when I press the button for the voltage to go up, it is actually going down. But there's probably a way to flip that. I haven't figured it out yet, and it's not the biggest problem either. You can see the frequency changes and your voltage as well. Now you can see it's at the memory 2, and you can switch when the machine is not running. You can switch in between these modes, and when the machine is running you can adjust your voltage like so. Now that's a beautiful colored screen, OLED screen. Now also now it's kind of in the green. When you go really high up in the voltage, it'll slowly start to turn orange to red, which probably has to do that this is maybe a little bit too much for the motor itself, but you know, I like to always keep it a little bit there. I think 8.5 or probably 9 is even a good speed for lining, but we're gonna test that in a minute. Now, and the rest is all very basic. Now you got your grip here to adjust your needle depth. It is very strong. It's a nice click to it, so I don't think this is gonna go anywhere while you're tattooing. It is a little bit of a short grip, so I hope this will actually work nice when you have like the more broad grip tape. Otherwise you might have to go for like a thinner kind of grip tape, so it covers that grip a little bit easier. And the rest of the design is actually really easy to wrap. Like if you have a look at the stroke adjustable machines, they are sometimes a little bit harder to wrap, so you can still do your adjustments. Now this is super easy to wrap and super easy to use as well. So yeah, maybe we should just wrap it up and see how this thing tattoos. So let's prepare some practice skin and let's see how she runs. So as you can see, I got the machine wrapped. I always pretty much wrap it in cling film. Sometimes I will use like a clipcord sleeve or a pen cover. If you want to use a clipcord sleeve or a pen cover, make sure you buy one that's a little bit wider, because it is pretty wide on the top where the battery is and your buttons, and the clipcord sleeve that I had is a little bit too small for that, so I use cling film. I wrap this one with grip tape so it's nice and covered. Now of course we're only gonna use this one on practice skin today. I've got the practice skin set up. Now whenever I test a machine, I always like to use a fine liner. So we got the InkSafe 3-round liner. Then I also like to use like a bowler kind of line and my standard liner. And my standard line is usually a 7-round liner. And my bold liner would be a 11-round liner in this case. Now you can see they're dirty. These are the cartridges that I always use for practice skin, so that's why they don't look very clean. I also have a 15 Magnum that we're going to be using because I always like to test the shading, and then the 3-round liner we will also be using to do a little bit of pepper shading or whip shading, dot work, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, let's see how this machine operates. We're going to start with the 3-round liner and just do a couple of lines. So right now we're at 8.5 volts. And we're just going to draw a couple of lines. Here we go. Looks pretty good. Let's do another one. I think 8.5 is probably a very good starting point for lining. Let's see how she does when we crank her up just a little bit. We're gonna go to 9 volts. It does feel very nice as well. On practice skin it's always a little bit harder because you don't really see if you're blowing out or none of that. But I think so probably somewhere in the range from 8 to 9 volts is probably good for lining. Now we're gonna do the same thing with a 7-round liner. So we're at 9 volts. Sometimes with a 3.5mm stroke it gets a little bit harder to do bolder lining. This will probably not really show directly on the practice skin, but you might be able to hear it. So just pay close attention and I will tell you the same thing. This is gonna be a 7-round liner. Let's do a couple of lines. Still very smooth. And nice crispy lines as well. There we go again. Cool. Let's turn her up maybe a little bit more for a large line. Nine and a half. More ink than that. I was probably better off when it was a little bit slower. Maybe try 8.5 again. It's 8.5 volts. I am a little bit of a slow liner, so I always rather have my machine really slow than too fast. It looks much better. Alright, so it's a 7-round liner. Let's quickly go to the big one. We are going to use the 11-round liner. Now on practice skin this will probably look like it works pretty good. On real skin I am not so sure. Of course it will probably work, but it might be more ideal to work with a little bit of a bigger a bigger stroke on your machine, like a 4.0 or bigger. But you know, there's people that do it with a shorter stroke as well. So let's do a couple of lines with the 11 round liner. Maybe increase it a little bit, go back to 9 volts. Seems to work pretty good, but like I said, this is on practice skin, it's not on real skin. It'll most likely work, but maybe with a little bit of a larger stroke it might be easier to accomplish a nice smooth line. Now let's quickly hop over to the Magnum and let's do a little bit of shading, a little bit of color packing. I'm gonna use the 15 curve Magnum. I'm at 6 volts now. Let's do a bit of whip shading. What is easier? I like it that this machine can run at a pretty low frequency as well. It's always very nice for shading, especially with a 3.5mm stroke. You can do some really nice soft shading. Maybe we should increase the voltage just a little bit. 6.5. I will do a little bit next to it and see if it makes a difference, because I feel like the 6 is just a little bit too slow for the shading. That's looking much better already. Slow my hand speed down a little bit. Alright, there you go. Nice soft shading. Now let's pack a little bit of black underneath. Still at 6.5 volts, just doing some circular motions. Going back and forth over that spot a little bit. Always make sure you keep moving. Never hold still while you're packing color or packing black, because you're just going to damage the skin. So look, there you go. It's kind of soft. I think it also has to do with the ink that I'm using, because I'm not using a very high grade ink. It's ink I only use for the practice skin basically. There we go. That's looking very nice. I'm not cutting into the practice skin at all, so I think I'm probably at the right voltage and I'm not pushing too hard. And it's a nice soft machine as well. Now let's quickly turn it off. Put the 3 round liner back in, and we're gonna do a little bit of stipple shading, or whip shading, or dot work. We're gonna put the voltage all the way down to 4 volts, because whenever you do dot work or shading with your liner, just go as slow as possible. We're gonna do that kind of pendulum swing motion. See if we can get something nice going on. So you just kind of go back and forth like this. As you can see, I'm not moving very fast. And it's creating nice dots. Very soft as well, so it's nice that you can kind of build up your shade. You can go over multiple times because it doesn't come out too dark yet, because it's a fairly soft machine. Probably need a little bit more ink. Yeah, it's a very nice machine if you're into this kind of style. You do a lot of fine art or fine line, or just do black and gray all day. I think it's also a very good realism machine. Probably a very nice black and gray machine overall. Not so much for traditional, but of course it can be used for traditional, but I think it might be a little bit too soft. For this kind of stuff, it's actually perfect. It doesn't vibrate at all, it doesn't hurt your hand, it's very short, it's very small, and very comfortable to use. Cool. Okay, let's turn it off. Clean up the practice skin a little bit. And as you can see, it operated pretty good. Let's bring you a little bit closer. So this was the review of the Yilong F3. I'm actually impressed by especially how small this machine is, and yeah, what it can actually do. It is very comfortable to work with. It's very nice that it's like a small kind of machine. It lays very comfortable in your hand. It doesn't have like a huge battery at the end. It's like a super small part, that's the battery. Yeah, and it's not heavy at all. It's actually very comfortable to work with. So if you want to have one of these machines, I will of course link it in the description down below. And this week they have crazy sales going on at Yilong as well, because it's the Black Friday that's coming up. So I think you can get this machine with a 20% discount. Of course, I also have a discount code if that week is already passed, which will give you a 15% discount as well. But yeah, if you want to buy it this week, make sure you click on the link in my description and use that 20% discount that's on the website as well. Other than that, I think this machine operates really well. It's very nice that you can switch between these memory slots, and that's something that is probably going to be introduced into a lot more of these wireless machines, because it was also a big thing in power supplies back in the day. When you use a power supply, they had multiple memory settings for either different machines. In this case, that is all in one machine, which is actually really nice. So you can just switch between that lining and shading mode, and adjust it, and it will actually memorize at what voltage you left it. So that's a very big pro on this machine. It is a 3.5mm stroke, so keep that in mind. It's not one of the strongest machines, but it's very nice for smooth color work, smooth black and gray, some fine lines, and you can see you can do some really nice pepper shading with it as well. Especially for beginners, I think 3.5mm is always the best way to go. So yeah, it's definitely worth a try, worth of buying, especially with the big discount right now. So make sure you check that link in the description, and then I will see you in the next video.